I make a video showing how to make a monkey's fist impact tool. A lot of people tell me they're illegal. I make a video about how monkey's fists are illegal in some places, and then everyone tells me I'm wrong and that they're not illegal. Like,
what do you want? What do you want?
So here I am making yet another monkey's fist impact tool video. This one is the covert keychain impact tool because when you look at it, it's much less obvious as to what it is simply due to the setup. It looks a lot more inconspicuous than previous iterations. Now full credit of this design goes to the Paracordist as I learned it from him. I'll have timestamps for each section in case you want to skip ahead and stick to the end for additional info. So let's weave. In terms of materials, I've got my Paracord, of course, a brass keyring, and a 1-inch steel ball. Hello there. I'm going to start off with the steel ball in between my index and middle finger, and I'm going to make 5 passes vertically around the steel ball going from left to right. After I've made the first 5 passes vertically, I'm going to pivot 90 degrees and start wrapping my next set of 5 passes horizontally around the first set. Stack that next set of wraps moving up the steel ball. Oh, and in case you did watch my video talking about the legality of monkey's fists, just to clarify, monkey's fists are illegal in some states in the US, but not most. Once I've made the second set of passes, I'm going to remove my fingers from the wraps before they lose complete circulation and then rotate the piece to the left. And from here, I'm going to make the final set of passes going around the second set in the spaces above and below the steel ball. Wrap the passes from the left to the right, and make sure all of your passes stay neatly stacked so that the cords don't overlap. Also, based on where I live in Canada, carrying anything like a monkey's fist for self-defense is 100% illegal. So I should have been a bit more specific about my location. I'll perhaps do a follow-up video about that at some point. With this last set of passes, you definitely want to make sure that you keep the cords evenly lined up, because if this last set of passes is too squished in, it'll make the monkey's fist look uneven. So just make sure you have enough room and widen those previous passes if you need to, just to get all the cords in and lined up properly. With all that done, I'm going to work all the slack out of the monkey's fist, and I'm going to start with the first set of passes as it has the most amount of slack. Now I have a specific video that goes through this process in detail, so we're going to skip the fine details on this one. But just work the slack out the running ends, it doesn't really matter which end as we'll have to even them up anyhow. Next, I'm going to bring the cords together, holding my monkey's fist with one running end at 10 o'clock and the other at 5 o'clock. I'm going to pass the strand on the right under the set of passes going vertically so that it's now coming out at the 2 o'clock position. Then with the strand on the left, I'm going to pass it under the strands going from the left to the right so that it's now coming out the same spot as the other cord. From here, if you have uneven cords, you can work the slack out from one side through the monkey's fist to the other. While doing this, you can also firm up and tighten the knot. Holding my monkey's fist in my left hand, the top cord is going to wrap around the bottom cord. Then the bottom cord is going to wrap up and over the opposite cord and then through the first loop. From there, just double up the cords to form the double snake knot. If you're enjoying this video so far, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel out. Cinch that double snake knot up to the monkey's fist. I didn't cinch it that close in my particular example, but you can modify yours as you like. To attach my monkey's fist to the keyring, I'm going to pass both cords through the keyring and then bring the cords back down towards the monkey's fist. Then with the right cord, I'm going to wrap it around the 2 standing ends and the opposite cord. The left cord then moves to the right side and then in front and through the first loop. Firm up that snake knot and then repeat a second time. Now tie 2 snake knots going in the direction back towards my monkey's fist. Again, you can tie a longer section if you want. There should be enough cord for some wiggle room. Firm up those snake knots, and from there I can snip off the excess strands on both sides, melt with the lighter, and then press down on them to lock them in place. Now let's tie our braided grip section. With the marigold cord, I'm going to pass it through the keyring and place the ring at the midpoint of that cord. Then with the olive cord, I'm going to place that midpoint over the top of the keyring and the marigold cord. From there, I'm going to cross the marigold cords over, the right above the left, and then hold them in place. After that, I'm going to cross the olive cords over in the same fashion and then hold them in place. I'm going to repeat this process and braid a 1-inch section. You'll know if you cross them over incorrectly, as the braid won't stay together. Again, you're just crossing over the pairs of strands. The right strand is always going to pass over top the left strand. Next, I'm going to take a piece of tape and wrap that around the braided section I just made. This is just going to make things easier and stay together. And from here, I'm going to tie a 4-strand double wall knot. The first olive cord is going to bend under the marigold. Then the next marigold cord is going to fold under that first olive cord, and then at the same time pass under the next 3rd cord, which is the next olive one. Fold the green cord under the marigold cord, at the same time passing under the 4th cord, the last marigold cord. Then finally, the marigold cord folds under the olive cord and under and through the first olive cord. So our initial setup should look like this. You're essentially folding each cord under the next one. For the second part of this knot, take the marigold strand on the top right and have it follow and double up on the opposite marigold strand and pass through the green lobe on the bottom left. Next, the olive strand on the bottom right follows and doubles up on the opposite olive strand, going under 2 of the marigold strands, then through the marigold lobe on the top left. From there, the olive strand on the top left, the one we haven't touched yet in this second round, comes down and follows the opposite olive strand, doubling up and going through the marigold lobe on the bottom right. Finally, the marigold strand on the bottom left is going to follow and trace the opposite marigold strand, going through the olive lobe on the top right. So we've essentially just doubled up all the strands from the first setup. I know this one seems a little confusing at first, but it's a lot easier than it looks. And if my verbal instructions are too confusing, just mute the video and watch it without any sound. Now we can cinch up the double wall knot and work all the slack out. Just take your time and work all the excess out, the running ends, and you'll also probably have some slack above the knot between the braided section and the knot, so just work that out as well. Using a spike or fid would definitely help working the slack out, so if you have one, use one. I'm going to get the knot nice and firm and all cinched up. And after that, we're going back to the 4-strand braid. So I'm just going to repeat the same steps as before, and this time I'm braiding a section long enough for a 3-finger grip, which for me is about 3 inches long. With that section done, I'm going to once again tie another 4-strand double wall knot just like before, and do the exact same knot and cinch it up to the braided section. And to finish this second knot off, I'm going to tie a single crown knot. The olive cord is going to come down and form an elbow. Then the marigold strand bends up and over the previous olive strand. After that, the 3rd marigold strand bends up and over the previous olive strand. And finally, the last marigold strand bends up and over the previous strand and then goes under the very first olive strand. From there, pull the cords tight and cinch down the cords to tighten the crown knot. And then we can snip off the excess, melt with the lighter, and then press down on the ends to lock them in place. And there we have our covert Monkey's Fist Impact Tool keychain. This braided section gives you a nice purchase on the grip with that double wall knot that kind of locks in between your index and middle finger. I think it looks pretty cool too. Now, if you are going to use this as a keychain, and if you do have your car keys on it, be sure to have some sort of quick release for the car key if you have a keyed ignition, as you don't want that heavy weight hanging on the keys as the key is in the ignition. It could damage your car. Also, of course, consult your local laws about having something like this on your person. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one.